Our first scripture reading is from Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 11 through 12 and 22. At that time, it will be said to this people and to Jerusalem, a hard wind comes from me, and I will prevail height in the desert toward my poor people, not to winnow or cleanse, a wind too strong for that. Now it is I who speak in judgment against them. For my people are foolish. They do not know me. They are stupid children. They have no understanding. They are skilled in doing evil, but do not know how to do good. As we read Psalm 14 together, we will sing the response every time we get to the R in your bulletin. I was asking to please play the response. Fools says in their heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, every deed is evil. There is no one who does any good.
The Lord looks down from heaven upon us all to see if there is anyone who is wise, who seeks after God.
Lord, you are my strength. Hasten to help me.
They have all proved faithless. All alike have turned bad. There is none who does good. No, not one.
Have they no knowledge of all those evildoers who eat my people like bread and do not call upon the Lord?
See how they tremble with fear, because God is the company of the righteous.
Your aim is to confound the plans of the afflicted, but the Lord is their refuge. Lord, you are my strength. Hasten to help me.
Oh, that Israel deliverance will come out of Zion.
When the Lord restores the fortunes of the people, Jacob will rejoice and Israel will be glad. Lord, you are my strength. Hasten to help me.
This is the word of God.
Thanks be to God.
Guide us, O God, by your word and your spirit, that in your light we may see light, in your truth find freedom, and in your way discover your peace. Amen.
Amen.
The second scripture reading this morning comes from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 10. I like how the street noise is 10. This one's today. Great. Is it a motorcycle
Yeah,
parade?
It's like a whole parade.
Sounds like motorcycle
Just
rally.
hold on.
How's everybody doing? Doing okay this morning?
Thank you for pausing. Yeah, it's every motorcycle that's just.
Oh. It's a lovely day to have the windows open though, the fresh air and the breeze. Isn't it nice? Who's ready for fall? Anybody? Yeah, oh wow, some more fall fans. I'm not. It's still summer until the 21st.
Hold on.
Okay, here we go. Luke 15, verses 1 through 10. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Grumble, grumble.
Well, it's kind of appropriate, right? There's some people who think motorcycle people are sinners, and Jesus would not do that. But
That's true. Jesus would definitely have eaten with the motorcycle people, probably. Yeah. Okay. Grumbling and saying, this fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them. So Jesus told them this parable. Which of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost." Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or, what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and search carefully until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost." Just so, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. This is the word of God.
Thanks be to God.
So tell me, have you ever lost something? What was the last thing that you lost? Anybody? Jennifer.
I was cutting fabric yesterday. I could not find the top ruler for my rotary cutter thing.
Wow.
I know.
Fabric project.
Fabric project.
Ruler.
Couldn't find it. Looked in all the rows.
Oh no, is it
And
still
asked
lost?
This area. And he's like, "Yep, this is where it is." Yep, that's where
Isn't it great when there's someone in your life you can always just find whatever you were looking for?
Yep.
Great. Anybody else? The last thing that you lost? Cody?
I found it, but I lost my wallet this morning.
Lost your wallet? Yeah, that's great. You're leaving the house and you're like, wait,
Yeah,
what?
it took me quite a while to find
Oh, no.
That's not nerve-wracking at all.
Of course, the net is in plain sight.
Of course. How about what's the most important thing you've ever lost? Anybody ever lost track of their child in a public place? I don't know. Anything else important that you've ever lost? That's real. Where are the keys? Have you ever just like when they're in your hand and you're like, but not really, where are they? So since we have all lost things, and some of us have lost some very important things, I think we can all have some sympathy for the scientists in India who last week lost a $140 million lunar lander. Did you hear this story? The Chandrayaan-2, a mission to study craters on the dark side of the moon, was launched on July 22nd, and since then it had been headed toward its path to orbit the moon. And when it reached its orbit last Saturday, September 7th, the orbital portion of the module detached, like it's supposed to, from the lunar lander, and the members of the Indian Space and Research Organization, that's ISRO, it's India's NASA, they started to get pretty excited, right? Here was their mission coming to fruition. And then, just a couple of small miles from its landing on the moon's surface, signal from the lander was lost. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in the room and he tried to cover it over. He told the disappointed crowd, "In life there are ups and downs. The country is proud of you. All your hard work has taught us something. We should hope for the best. You have served your country well and served science and humanity." Kind words to what must have been some pretty disappointed folks. So Monday morning I'm getting ready, I have the radio on in the background like I do most mornings, the news, and my ears perked up when there was a reporter from India on to give an update. She had some new information. The lunar lander, which once was lost, she said, had now been found. The orbiting module had snapped a picture of it on the surface of the moon, and now with the knowledge of its location, the members of ISRO could begin work on trying to get in touch with it. NASA is even in on it. Our own lunar orbiter is going to pass by on Tuesday, and it's going to see what information it can gather, see where it's oriented, what its condition might be. What was lost has now been found, and friends are even joining in to celebrate. The stories of the lost sheep and the lost coin are some of the most well-known of Jesus' parables. A parable, of course, is the kind of story you tell to illustrate a moral or some other lesson. It's like an extended metaphor. You use a familiar experience to try to explain something that's unfamiliar or unknown. And Luke tells us that these parables are about how much joy there is in heaven when one sinner repents, which paints a certain kind of picture of what God's lost and found must be like. With God sitting there next to the cardboard box, waiting for the sheep or the coin that is lost to repent, and so to join the found. But much is lost in the interpretation. Thank you, Jonathan Dickinson. For example, did you hear the point where the sheep repented? Or when the coin went off on its own to lead a sinful life? I didn't, me either. Amy Jo Levine, who is a Jewish scholar of the New Testament, has written in depth about Jesus' parables and how they might have been heard by his original Jewish audience. And she wonders if we have not caused more harm than good by naming these parables, the lost coin, the lost sheep, for the objects that have been lost, an animal and a non-sentient piece of metal, rather than for the people, the sentient, seemingly moral folks with agency, who did the losing. When you take a second look, there's a lot to learn from these parables because the familiar images that were used to communicate a new message have grown unfamiliar to us. Which of you, for example, having 100 sheep, anyone have any sheep? Not even the Bastions don't even have sheep? Wow. So we have to try to understand, right? Which of you, having 100 sheep and missing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go looking for the one that was lost? The answer, in Jesus' original context, nobody. This was a ridiculous thing to do. A good shepherd would never leave 99 defenseless, stupid sheep in the wilderness to go and search for one. A shepherd with 100 sheep, quite honestly, would be hard-pressed to notice that one sheep was gone. Have you ever tried to tell 100 sheep from 99 sheep? Me either. But I don't think it would be easy, right? Then, when this ridiculous shepherd has found the one missing sheep, and assuming, I guess, that no predators got to the rest of the flock while he was gone, he calls his neighbors to have a party with him to celebrate. That's what you would do after a day searching in rough terrain for 1/100th of your flock, right? Throw a big party? No, probably not. I mean, what is this party going to cost anyway? It could be more than the value of the sheep. Would it really be that big of a deal to the shepherd? Or what woman having 10 silver coins, when she loses one of them, does not turn on the light and sweep out under every piece of furniture until she finds it? And then, when she does, she turns right around and spends it on a party to celebrate with her friends that the coin that she just spent, that had been lost, was now found. Does it make any sense? It doesn't make sense to us, to our concept of lost and found. God's lost and found, these two stories are trying to tell us, is not a cardboard box under the front desk where discarded reading glasses and extra sweatshirts go to die. God's lost and found is quite different in three important ways: in noticing, in searching, and in rejoicing. So first, in both parables, the shepherd and the woman notice what they had lost. Okay, try telling a pile of 10 quarters from a pile of 9 quarters. Any, got it first at a glance? Yeah, it's hard, right? The one on the right has 10. Now this must be easier than the difference between 199 sheep, right? This woman, this shepherd, they were counting. They were checking in, making sure that all 10 coins, that all 100 sheep were there. The shepherd really must have been counting, right? 1 out of 100. And so God is always counting. Because Each and every one of us is always accounted for. God is always looking for each and every one of her children, just like the woman with the coins. She is keeping tabs. There's no leaving the party unnoticed. There's no laying low to see who's going to tell you're missing. God is always looking out for you, for each and every one of us. And the second point, God will drop anything to search for you, to find you, to come and to be present with you where you are. I know you don't believe this. I hear it all the time. I know there are people who have it much worse than me. I know that there are real problems going on. God probably doesn't care. I mean, look at what's happening in the world. I know it might sound ridiculous to you that God would drop everything to come and find you. But is it really any more ridiculous than a shepherd who leaves 99 sheep to go find one? Not really. And third, when the shepherd and the woman find their lost things, which they noticed were lost and they searched for until they found, they rejoice. It's not just the sigh of relief when you find your wallet, or like the happy dance you do when you get the keys. It's a real party, a big one. All their friends and neighbors are invited, and there is joy and there is community. What was lost has been found, and the result is relationships, is being drawn in order to celebrate. It's kind of beautiful, right? Does it make you feel special? This idea that God would notice if you were missing, that God would drop everything to come and find you, that God would throw an enormous party in heaven just for you. It should. Which brings us back to the very beginning of this passage that we read today, to Luke 15, verses 1 and 2. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Yes, on one level, Jesus is telling this parable to show those who are listening how much God loves them, how much their lives matter in heaven. But Jesus was also teaching something else to those grumblers. These characteristics of God, the noticing, the searching, the rejoicing, we're not merely meant to be the subjects or the recipients of these things. We are also meant to try and start acting like God in our own lives. The grumblers who began this passage were mad because they didn't like the people who Jesus was including. Have you heard a story like this before? Some things never change, right? We don't like who you're letting in. But Jesus wanted them to learn it was exactly those people who had been left out, who needed to be brought into the fold, who needed to be searched for under all the furniture. It's not God who is the absent-minded shepherd or the woman who misplaces her coin. It's us. It's us when we don't notice who is missing, when we don't pause to ask which voices have not been heard or what person has been made to believe that they are not welcome. It's us when we simply do not care who might have been lost. So this morning, as we come to understand that God will not lose track of us, and that God will celebrate us with a giant party, may that confidence give us the courage, the curiosity to begin looking for what is lost. Just like the Pharisees and the scribes, we might not like the people that Jesus wants us to let in. Just like the sheep and the coin, the people who are lost might not be repentant. Find them anyways, Jesus tells us. And when you do, throw a party, celebrate, and build the relationships necessary so that they will not be lost again. There is so much joy in the kingdom of heaven over one who is lost. May that joy become our work as well. Amen?